Hello there, this is Erick Widman from Passage Immigration Law, and we're doing a weekly question and answer Q&A session, and we have some great questions this week that we'll get to in a second. Two different people asked me as a preliminary question to make sure we cover what happens at a naturalization interview. So that's a bit different than what happens at a green card interview, and there are some important differences you want to keep in mind. But I wanted to give you an overview of what to expect for your citizenship interview, where you're going to naturalize, and that could help you prepare for the big day. So on average, the across the country, definitely here in the Pacific Northwest, it's taking about 12 to 14 months for a citizenship interview to be set up from the time that you file the N-400. From the point at which you get through the biometrics and maybe a request for evidence to the time that the interview is set up, it's about a year. And at the interview, you're going to be asked a civics test and an English reading and writing test. So you're gonna have to prepare for that. If you're a native English speaker, it's going to be pretty easy for the reading and writing tests, but everybody needs to study for the civics test. And what I like to tell our clients is that as some positive peer pressure, every single one of our clients has passed that civics test. So that helps keep momentum up. And once you enter into the USCIS building, you'll be asked to wait a little bit, hopefully not too long, for your interview. Your officer will come out, call your name. If you have an attorney, then I'll go with you. But you'll be invited into his office. You'll have to raise your right hand, swear to tell the truth, and provide your ID. The officer will typically then jump right into the test. And you're going to be asked to answer 6 out of 10 questions correctly. So you're able to pass the test and complete the civics test once you answer 6 out of those 10 questions correctly. If you miss a few, that's okay. You can miss up to 4 and still pass that test. The reading and writing test, it's done with a stylus and tablet for the most part. And just this last week, one of the sentences that you had to read was, "The president lives in the White House." And a similar difficulty level for writing, and you use the stylus and write out, "George Washington was the first president." That's a sample. Those are examples. But if you're multilingual or you haven't had a really thorough education, it can be challenging to successfully complete the reading writing test. So you'll want to study for that if needed. But you'll go through the eligibility questions usually after that. Those are all the bad things that you have not done, but you're asked about anyway. Have you ever trained in a terrorist camp? Have you been a prison guard? Have you ever voted in a US election? So all those questions are you're randomly selected which ones you have to answer, but those are included at the beginning of the naturalization interview. It's taking about 20 minutes these days on average, sometimes 25 minutes to get through everything. And that's the overview. So looking at your specific questions, one of the first ones is, "Hello, I cannot expedite my CR1 visa at the US Embassy in Jordan, Amman. It's been 5 months with no interview date. What can I do to speed up the process? When should I be concerned?" Okay, so the reality is there are delays for pretty much every embassy, every US embassy across the globe. And so you're certainly not alone. And the US State Department is saying COVID has really harm their ability to staff appropriately. And to some degree, that's definitely true. The in-person interviews have slowed down a lot because of COVID. So you're not alone. There's not necessarily anything wrong with your case, but for CR1 with your immediate relative, this conditional resident visa when someone's been married less than 2 years, that processing time on average has also increased quite a bit under COVID. You're wondering though, at what point should you, if you can't do an expedite, what else can you do to speed up the process? There's definitely the senator's office or a congressional rep. You can contact them, and that's in Oregon, Washington, California, all the congressional representatives and the senators are pretty responsive. Other states are sometimes not as good, sometimes as good, but contacting congressional representative is a good call next. You're following up, I'm sure, with the NVC and the embassy directly. That is an important prerequisite towards what might be the best tool of all, and that's a mandamus lawsuit. So you want to lay the groundwork first. And it's been 5 months with no interview date since you probably were documentarily qualified, since you gave all of the evidence that was needed over to the National Visa Center. But it's been crickets, nothing since for your interview date. With a mandamus suit, that's likely premature, but it should be on your radar, and consider that, because there's quite often discrimination against Muslims happening through various extensive background check programs. One's called the CARP program. So you might be experiencing an unconstitutional delay. Most likely it is the result of lack of staff, but mandamus suit is ultimately what you're going to want to do. We've helped people who've had their cases delayed. If it's over a year you've been waiting, that's a strong case. Probably prior to that, not as strong. Okay, so if you have a degree in journalism and you worked in a related field for a year, and then you receive a job offer in the same field, will I be qualified to apply for an immigrant visa? So I don't have the full context here, but are you qualified for an immigrant visa? I assume your employer is the one who will be petitioning for you to get a green card. And that, of course, is the end result of an immigrant visa. So you're wondering if you are going to be able to qualify if the I-140 and all the other required steps, it'll work out if your degree is slightly different than where you work. Here's what I'm going to recommend. I need more context, and our business immigration attorney, David, needs more context. Email us at support@passage.law, and we will get you some more feedback. But we need some more background context first, please. And yes, okay. My deceased father was an immigrant to the US, but he left the States for good and did not return anymore. So your father who passed away had a green card. If I want to visit the US under any kind of visa, is this fact an advantage, or is there more possibility that I'll be approved for any visa application? And what is the visa for me? Okay, well, that's a good question. It's supposed not to matter too much if family members have had a visa. It's not necessarily a mark of good moral character or a factor that increases your eligibility automatically. Just because your parent had a green card doesn't mean that they're going to more favorably, like getting into college. If you had a sibling or a parent go there, will that help you get in? It's not like that. But there's all kinds of data. There's interrelated information in their databases and the background checks. And it is a positive thing that they vetted that side of your family and they got approved. So shouldn't matter too much, but if anything, it's a positive thing rather than a negative thing. Okay, so your dad had left the States and did not return. And you're wondering, what would be the best visa for you? I need more context as well. It's going to depend upon who your petitioner is, family member, a business, sometimes it's humanitarian basis for getting a green card. But the other thing you want to look at, if your father had naturalized, if he had naturalized, it's unclear if he just had a green card, that could give you the ability to become a U.S. citizen. You might have derived or acquired citizenship automatically. So that could be worthwhile looking into. We recommend that. And there's some complex charts to help you determine, am I already a U.S. citizen? So that's something else to confirm. Yes, in terms of an EB3 visa, our other final question here, what are your qualifications to be eligible for an EB3 visa? So you need to have a petitioner. We actually did an article about this recently, and yes, we happily send that to you. Again, David is our business immigration expert, but I encourage you, if you're going to trust a website to gather background information, USCIS's website is a good one. And because you can rely upon it as opposed to other websites like law firm articles, some are better than others. Some information is out of date. But as you'll see, EB3, employment-based third preference category, I recommend you check out the USCIS website for some basic info. And you'll see the categories there: skilled workers, professionals, unskilled workers. You'll know that you'll see that the feared labor certification is required for these EB3s. In some cases, you can get a green card without a labor certification, but it's one of the key steps for the EB3. So yeah, that's my quick response. To get a general overview without delving into specific issues, I'd recommend you check out the website. Ours is pretty good too. It's not as authoritative as the USCIS website. So I am going to wrap things up here. Thanks for coming. We are going to keep doing these live Q&As, and we're also going to be doing a business immigration webinar on Fridays. So you'll see me and David there this Friday, right at noon Pacific time. Take care. Have a great week.